Greetings, citizens of the modern age. I see much has changed, yet somehow the folly remains. I am Socrates, returned once more, to laugh at the limited reasoning in your YouTube comments. And yes, welcome to Atheists Don't Know, Episode 4, Belief. No, not for hemlock this time, but to go through bitter cope and rage of your digital discourse. Specifically, to point out how wrong you are in your YouTube comments. And so, prepare your intellects, the little you have, or at least your scrolling fingers. Once again, I find myself compelled to refute. Why? Because the comments, overflow with the same tired straw men. You're trying to refute atheism. I don't need perfect knowledge to make provisional judgments about credibility. If you're going to treat all assumptions as beliefs, congratulations, you've made breathing a religion. If you want to reduce all background epistemic norms to beliefs, fine, but then don't pretend you've proven atheism is just another religion. By your logic, using reason is a belief system. You're forcing atheists to use your terms. Textbook case of arguing by definition. You treat withholding belief as dishonest. You don't get to dismiss other definitions of atheism because it doesn't fit a rigid definition that you prefer. Atheists don't need to all define it the same way for it to remain valid. Atheism doesn't become a belief just because someone tries to redefine it that way. Your entire counter-argument depends on insisting that your framing is the only coherent one. That's textbook special pleading. Let's be clear, saying, "I don't believe your claim," is not the same as asserting the opposite claim. "I do not believe X" is still a withholding of assent, not a declaration of X is false. You conflate debating definitions with claiming certainty. The irony is that you demand precision and unity from atheists while defending a label, theism, that encompasses mutually exclusive worldviews. Having common values and community doesn't equal doctrine, unless you're ready to call Toastmasters, hiking clubs, and the scientific method religions too. These are words that crumble like dry cookies under a touch of inquiry. They are easily rebutted, yet they proliferate as if repetition alone were truth. They are so incredibly stupid, I cannot help but to laugh.
What a stupid bitch!
Atheists, in denying belief, still involves beliefs, both general assumptions and specific beliefs about God, no matter how much they cope and cry and get angry at the screen. The claim, "I do not believe," is itself a form of belief. It is not empty. It is not neutral. And it is certainly not beyond scrutiny. And because this is true, it makes the lack of belief definition a performative contradiction and dubious at best. And what this shows is that when it comes to belief, atheists do not know.
Atheists, welcome. Today we're going to talk about something you might think you understand. Belief. But don't worry, I'll go slow. Philosophically speaking, belief is typically defined as a mental state in which a person holds a proposition to be true. You see, it's not just about saying yes or no to a God, it's about assent to a claim about reality. From a secular perspective, many atheists describe their view as simply a lack of belief rather than a positive assertion. For example, the American Atheists organization defines atheism as one thing, a lack of belief in gods, American Atheists, 2023. Similarly, the Oxford English Dictionary defines atheism as disbelief or lack of belief in the existence of God or gods. But here's the catch. Philosophically, lack of belief still engages propositional content. As the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy notes, belief is a propositional attitude toward truth. The Cambridge Dictionary of Philosophy 2015 agrees. Belief is the dispositional state of holding something to be true. Even Daniel Dennett in The Intentional Stance 1987 frames belief as treating a proposition as true for the purpose of interpreting behavior. All of these show that so-called lack is still structured as a belief because it orients itself toward the proposition in question. Let's make it even clearer. All beliefs, positive or negative, are propositional. They exist in the mind as structured claims and manifest in thought or speech as assertions. So when someone claims to lack belief in God, that act itself presupposes a number of different propositions in order to negate them. These negations are themselves positive assertions. Therefore, claiming to lack belief is already a belief about God, making the denial self-contradictory. One cannot escape belief by denying it. Notice the emphasis on holding a proposition to be true. So when someone says, "I don't believe in God," they're not escaping belief, they're asserting a number of different things. For example, belief in God is unwarranted. To argue otherwise would be an obvious contradiction. "Oh, my atheist friends, you repeat it like a charm. I don't believe, I just lack belief." As though by saying that you've stepped outside the realm of belief itself. But every great thinker, philosopher, and scientist says otherwise. Belief is always propositional. You never escape it. You only rename it. Let's walk through the evidence. These are paraphrased. Bertrand Russell, in The Problems of Philosophy, 1912, wrote that every proposition we can understand must be either true or false, and belief is the relation a subject takes toward that proposition. When you say you lack belief, you are still addressing the proposition, God exists. You haven't escaped. It's still propositional. William James, in The Will to Believe, 1896, told us belief is a commitment guiding action, even when evidence is inconclusive. Your so-called lack of belief is not neutrality. It shapes how you live, how you act, what you dismiss. That is commitment to a proposition about God. Roderick Chisholm, in his Theory of Knowledge, put it plainly, belief means accepting a proposition as true. To lack belief is to treat the proposition God exists as not accepted. That is still a stance toward it, still propositional. Timothy Williamson, in Knowledge and Its Limits, 2000, sharpened the point. Belief is a cognitive attitude distinct from knowledge because it does not require certainty. You don't need absolute proof to be in the realm of belief. Your lack of belief is still an attitude toward the proposition. Donald Davidson, in his essays like Actions, Reasons, and Causes, 1963, showed beliefs rationalize action. They explain what you do. And indeed, your lack of belief explains why you don't pray, why you don't worship, why you shape your life as though God does not exist is true. That's propositional through and through. Quine and Ullian, in The Web of Belief, 1978, remind us that beliefs interconnect. Even your lack of belief plugs into your broader web of commitments, influencing and being influenced by the rest. It isn't nothing. It's part of the network. Michael Hume, in Epistemology, Contemporary Readings, 2002, calls belief a mental representation with propositional content, treated as true by the believer. To say you lack belief is still to hold a mental state about God. You cannot escape propositional content. And cognitive science agrees. Paul Thagard in Mind, Introduction to Cognitive Science, 1996, Philip Johnson Laird in Mental Models, 1983, and Stephen Stitch in The Fragmentation of Reason, 1990, all show that belief consists of propositional representations in the mind, structured and driving reasoning. Even your so-called lack fits the model. You represent the proposition and withhold assent. That is still belief about God. So you see, every voice, Russell, James, Chisholm, Williamson, Davidson, Quine, Ullian, Dennett, Hume, Thagard, Johnson Laird, Stitch, points to the same truth. Belief is propositional, and your lack of belief is still belief. Neutral? Never. Beyond scrutiny? Absolutely not. You cannot step outside the box of belief, my friends. You only prove, with every denial, that you are still inside it.
Here we go again, with atheists leaving a copious amount of cope in the comments. They all deny believing in things related to a god.
Of course I believe that! I don't believe in God! And that belief applies to gods!
They hilariously say easily refuted things like, atheism as lack of belief is not a claim about reality, which is clearly stupid. I would say dishonest, but they don't have the ability to make definitive, accurate statements, as they don't have free will or minds.
Okay, a mind is an emergent property of the brain. Does that mean a mind is physical, distinct from the brain, or
mind doesn't exist? The mind cannot and have not.
And how can something without a mind or free will discern a true proposition from a false one? They were determined to believe whatever it is that they do. They can't evaluate anything. Their very tool of evaluation was determined as well. And I ought not feel bad about it either, because they're actual soulless animals. And when their mothers call them accidents, it's true. Their moms don't decide things either. Oh, I can hear you ape automatons crying out, "Not all atheists!" Oh, please. If you can't generalize, you literally can't talk about anything. Communication itself depends on generalization. You can't say, most people like pizza, water is wet. Because what about exceptions? You'd be forced to footnote every word. And those footnotes? Oh, they'd need footnotes. And those footnotes? Footnotes again. By the time you're done, you've created a tower of citations so high it collapses under its own absurdity. And you still haven't said a single coherent thing. Language is a little more complex than your Coomer degenerate shows. So when someone says, you treat withholding belief as dishonest, is clearly a straw man. And by the way, there's no evidence of such a claim made by this channel. Again, they are incapable of having any discernment in order to be dishonest. This is not my claim, this is an internal critique. Their claims can be stupid without being dishonest. Mindless people are pretty dumb.
I'm an atheist. I'm an atheist. Of course, definitions aren't prescriptive, but you better use my definition of atheism. I'm an atheist. Of course, I always prescribe to people definitions aren't prescriptive. Who cares if it's logically contradictory? I'm an atheist. Of course, morals are subjective. But that doesn't stop me from telling others how they ought to behave.
They run from facts and logic, like a cat from a cucumber. So when they say, I lack belief in God, it comes with the belief and proposition that says, I have an epistemic position. They're not just whispering into a void, they are declaring, there exists a mental state within me that reflects and is about X within reality. That's not just a mental state, that's an epistemic norm, a claim about how one should believe, which is a claim about truth, justification, and rationality. So even atheists' metaposition, how belief should function, is an objective truth claim about how minds should operate in relation to reality. Saying, it's just a statement about my epistemic position, is itself an objective truth claim about the state of one's mind. And since minds exist in the real world, this amounts to a claim about reality. It's a claim about the truth of one's mental state, and often smuggles in broader normative claims about belief and justification. You cannot escape metaphysics just by hiding in epistemic modesty. That's why straw manning with justifying non-belief doesn't make it a belief is such a terrible rebuttal. Because again, it's not the act of justification of non-belief, it's that non-belief itself is a performative contradiction. Do you believe that non-belief is a thing? Do you believe that you don't believe? These are not questions of justification, these are demonstrations of incoherence, and no amount of you being aggressively mad at a non-existent thing will change that. Atheists, oh atheists, you really have a problem. Let me spell it out for you. Lack of belief at the intrinsic, axiomatic, conceptual level? That's belief. It's belief at the meta level. You can't escape it. And now it's belief again, at its justification level. Congratulations! You've circled all the way back to having a belief. If someone says, I reject the claim that God exists, they are not stepping into some vacuum of neutrality. They have instead asserted a new proposition. It is true that I reject the claim that God exists. Even the act of saying, I lack belief, is a way of affirming, it is true that I lack belief. Even the claim, I don't believe claims until good evidence is presented, is a meaningless statement. The first is obviously claims themselves are evidence, and you believe them without the same kind of evidence you apply to anything else. Typically, atheist groups generally belong to the same that say, believe all women. If someone says they are a woman, even if they have a wiener, then they are. And if a pregnant woman says the fetus is a baby, then it's a baby. If she says it's a fetus, then she can abort it, because it's not alive until she says so. But let's say all atheists were right-wingers. It wouldn't change a thing. What do you do when you see a dead body on the ground and you know it was a murder? Do you even consider witness testimony? Oh, you don't? Because it's just a claim? And atheists who say claims aren't evidence also defer to secular scientists' claims, by their claims alone. If a scientist says it, it's true on grounds they said so. Oh, they don't? Tell us, genius, did you personally do the experiment yourselves? You didn't? Oh, you took their word, the claim of the people in the paper you read. It's almost like you take claims as evidence by themselves and lie that they aren't all the time. You won't find many atheist debates where an atheist doesn't say, claims aren't evidence. Epistemic warrant is subjective and relative to the individual. Reality doesn't care about your preferences. Even atheists themselves can't agree on epistemological justification on evidence. The lack of self-reflection is truly astounding. Maybe look in the mirror before you lecture others on logical consistency. This claim, if you're going to treat all assumptions as beliefs, congratulations, you've made breathing a religion, is such a comedic straw man. Nowhere has this channel stated beliefs equal religion. It's atheists that typically act as though beliefs are religious? So secular beliefs don't exist? Congratulations. The atheists that say this continue to prove how dumb they are. The atheists that say, if you want to reduce all background epistemic norms to beliefs, fine, but then don't pretend you've proven atheism is just another religion, is a non sequitur and a straw man. Again, the video shows several different reasons to believe atheism is a religion. Nowhere does it say because belief itself is religious. Oh, so now we're redefining atheism. The amount of stupid that fits in atheists' fat heads is astounding. The video they are failing to refute does not adhere to any one definition. In fact, it says there are multiple. It's asking you to prove your version is the right one, which was part of the entire point. Therefore, it cannot be an appeal to definition. You have to prove your version of atheism is the one and only correct one. It cannot be a redefining unless that definition is true, outside your personal preference. And yes, all versions of atheism cannot be true, because they contradict each other. To say, atheists don't have to agree on a definition in order for it to be valid, is a straw man. And stupid. The fact that other atheists disagree on atheism requires you to demonstrate why they are wrong and yours is correct. Or are you going to just dishonestly ignore other atheist rebuttals?
I just lack belief in God.
That's not the same as withholding belief until evidence is provided.
I lack belief in God.
Do you believe that about this God?
Okay, fine. Christianity is the one true religion. Christians don't have to argue against other religions, because they don't have to agree on claims in order for it to be true. You can say that, but then you can't say you value reason, evidence, and skepticism. Nor can you appeal to secular humanism as your illogical, non sequitur justification, because the tradition as a whole generally assumes that reasoned discourse is necessary. You can stick your head in the sand like an ostrich, and plug your ears and scream. But what you don't get to do is say you are open to reason. And what you also don't get to do is accuse Christians for having faith and belonging to a cult. Because that's what you're doing, and you people have the gall to say atheism is not a religion. All of your terrible rebuttals are just digging yourselves a deeper hole. Where would science be if they refused to consider counterclaims? If scientists said, shut up, my theories can be true even if all of the consensus says I am wrong, I don't need to listen to them. I guess that would explain why so many of them stupidly say, while swimming in chocolate sauce, lack of belief atheism is the correct one because the majority says so, the appeal to consensus fallacy. But that's not even justified. You won't find a single study or poll, not even the ones they cite, that asks the kinds of questions that would differentiate lack of belief from believing that God does not exist. There are none that have any kind of large enough sample size that would get you anywhere near that kind of assertion. We at this channel believe in things with evidence. You should too. If they actually took the time to listen and consider counter-atheist claims, maybe they wouldn't say such dumb things, but instead would probably rather swim in their own chocolatey filth. It might also explain why, after being humiliated in the comment section, why they deleted their comments and never commented again. Atheists continue to yell at their screen and cope. And it never stops being funny. Because they are constantly wrong about everything. They say, atheist gatherings like Sunday Assembly aren't religious institutions, they're social communities without dogma or doctrine. Which is clearly false. Dogma doesn't require religion. It requires ideological rigidity. Dogma, by definition, is defined as a principle or set of principles laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true. No mention of God. When these groups say no required beliefs, but also state we have no deity, or we are secular, humanist, atheist, they are laying down a boundary condition. The group's identity depends on absence of deity. That is, no God is itself a baseline doctrinal claim, regardless if atheists dishonestly frame it as not dogma. It's a boundary doctrine, similar to how religions exclude outsiders. A Catholic church says, to be Catholic you must affirm God, Christ, Trinity. A Sunday Assembly says, to be us, you must affirm no deity. Doctrine is defined as a belief or set of beliefs held and taught by a church. And they function as dogma because it's held as unconditionally true. According to Sunday Assembly Charter, Official Global Charter 2013, the Sunday Assembly has no deity. The sentence, has no deity, is the incontrovertible clause. Every official chapter must adopt the charter to affiliate with the global organizations. So although they wrongly say no doctrine, they must affirm that there is no deity or supernatural element in the assembly. So without making this video longer than it needs to be, take a good long look at this picture. It doesn't take you very long to do actual research to find out how wrong these atheists are. These are axiomatic, not open to negotiation within the space. They define inclusion and exclusion, and they're prescriptive, in effect. They tell you what kind of belief is acceptable to hold or express within the group. So while Sunday Assembly or secular humanist groups claim to have no dogma, they still enforce a metadogma. We reject all supernatural or revealed dogmas. That statement is itself a normative rule about belief, a dogma against dogma. Philosophers like Karl Popper and Paul Feyerabend have pointed out that anti-dogmatism itself can become dogmatic if it refuses to admit its own presuppositions. Once you institutionalize no gods, you've created a creed, even if it's framed negatively. So when atheists stupidly say things like, having common values and community doesn't equal doctrine, unless you're ready to call Toastmasters, hiking clubs, and the scientific method religions too, you can laugh at them at the obvious straw man. Common values and community is only part of a necessary condition, and to lump in the scientific method too is just silly, as it doesn't even belong in that straw man, not categorically. They can't even argue with terrible straw men accurately, and it shows. Atheists don't understand logic. When the atheist says, and ironically, your entire counter-argument depends on insisting that your framing is the only coherent one. That's textbook special pleading. It's false. None of the videos special pleads. Special pleading means exempting oneself from a standard without justification. What said was, atheist framing is incoherent based on the same logical criteria we apply to our own. Pointing out incoherence isn't claiming a special exemption. When they say, I'm not claiming to know atheism is true, they're trying to dodge epistemic responsibility. They want to avoid being accused of holding a belief that can be wrong or needs justification. In other words, they want to participate in the discussion without committing to any proposition. But that's not how reasoning about truth or probability works. In probabilistic reasoning, any position you hold, even a lack of belief, implies some degree of confidence in one hypothesis over another. That's an absolute truth assertion that points to the coherence of probability. So when they say, I don't know atheism is true, yet they act and self-identify as an atheist, they are implicitly saying, I find atheism more probable than theism, probable enough to adopt the label. That is a belief, not an absence of one. And when they stupidly say, I don't need perfect knowledge to make provisional judgments about credibility, they prove they don't know what they are talking about. On top of being a straw man, they're desperate to avoid an absolute truth claim. But probability itself presupposes a framework of truth claims, a vast network of propositions taken as known or true enough to reason from. Invoking provisional judgment or probability doesn't free someone from knowledge assertions. It actually multiplies them. To even talk about probability, one must already assume 1. That the probabilistic model itself exists and maps to reality. 2. That measurement or comparison represents real relationships, distances, frequencies, logical space, etc. And 3. That there is a stable world in which these measurements have meaning. And those are just the basics. All of those are ontological truth claims. So nobody is claiming you need perfect knowledge, and they say, you conflate debating definitions with claiming certainty. Again, straw man. What you don't get to do is just hand-wave away the fact that your provisional judgments aren't making positive assertions that require evidence. They say, by your logic, using reason is a belief system. Category error and straw man. Reason is epistemic machinery. It's how we arrive at beliefs. A belief system is epistemic content. It's the output of reasoning, or lack thereof. So they occupy different categories. They say, you're forcing atheists to use your terms. Wrong. This channel is not forcing atheists to use our terms. It's asking them to use the common parlance of logic that they themselves appeal to whenever they claim to be rational or evidence-based. They can live in contradiction, which they often do when cornered. They claim logic is just a social convention, invented by humans, as if we can just arbitrarily decide to change the rules. Sorry, no. Inventing the symbols and language to describe a thing does not mean humans invented the thing it points to. Denying logic isn't a position, it's a suicide note for reason, which these clowns say they value. Oh, more cope and being wrong? Why are we name-calling and insulting? Isn't that ad hominem? No dum-dum. Insults are not ad hom, they never have been. And again, they themselves say they are mindless. So if you can't think for yourselves, and you have no mind, you're probably dumb as a result. You might say it's just a provisional judgment. So we're back to refuting atheism, are we? Again, with the tired old strawmen. Are lack of belief atheists truly so fragile? Do they genuinely believe all of atheism crumbles just because their particular incoherent version fails? It's almost comical. Grow up! The video never claimed this is a refutation of atheism itself, only of the specific justifications atheists give. The video shows that atheists fail to provide any coherent justification that supports both their knowledge and their belief claims tied to their own definitions of atheism. An atheist said, "You're defending a label theism that encompasses mutually exclusive worldviews," which is, again, a straw man. And there's absolutely zero evidence for this. As a matter of fact, if you look at the dates of the videos on this channel, we were going after Christian theory long before the critique on atheism. Christians were crying that this channel was atheist at that time. And now atheists are crying that we must be theist. Even if it were true, it would be irrelevant and a genetic fallacy. This is the same atheist clown that said, saying I don't believe X is withholding of assent, not a declaration of X, is false. Saying I don't believe in lack of belief, atheism, is just a withholding of assent, not a declaration atheism is false. Don't get us wrong, we think that rebuttal is dumb. But atheists hate it when we use their own arguments against them. They cry and cope and move goalposts. And it was the same atheist that said, saying I don't believe your claim is not the same as asserting the opposite claim. I am serious. Saying I don't believe your claim of lack of belief atheism is not the same as asserting the opposite claim, theism. You might ask, why are they so incredibly stupid as to show they are incapable of seeing their own logic? Because they're NPCs. They are incapable of thinking for themselves and just regurgitates terrible arguments they heard online. from their cult leaders, their atheist prophets, saying I don't believe your claim of lack of belief atheism is not the same as asserting the opposite claim, is so dumb and a straw man, because it doesn't have to assert the opposing claim, but it is asserting all sorts of things, and yes, many relating to a god. So let me get this straight. Anytime other atheists disagree with each other, one of them is defending theism and therefore must be theist. All right, atheists, let's hear it. Word games, semantics. This is a misunderstanding of language. Is that your intellectual trump card? Because it's not. It's a tired, transparent dodge. No, you're just wrong. Every single time. The video, once again, is not denying that language evolves. It's pointing to the practical and philosophical problem of defining terms clearly when engaging in debate or claiming rational coherence. Semantics matter. And since words apparently don't matter, why do you lack of belief atheists cry so much over your preferred label? Hypocrites. The lack of belief atheists' position is dishonest. I mean, it would be if atheists could actually reason at all. It's passive-aggressive, as I will demonstrate. I'm atheist, which means without atheism. Atheism is the lack of belief that atheists are smart. I'm not claiming they're dumb, I just reject claims that they are smart. And until I see a shred of evidence, it's the most honest position to take. Lack of belief atheists are also atheist when it comes to other versions of atheism. We just take it one step further. And I don't want to hear that atheism is a double negative. Because that's just word games and definitions aren't prescriptive. Stop with semantics. But seriously, the atheist prophet who many say founded lack of belief atheism left atheism. How embarrassing. Most people point to Antony Flew in The Presumption of Atheism, 1972, who popularized the notion that atheism could simply mean the absence of belief in God, not necessarily the belief that God does not exist. He became a deist. He was considered the Christopher Hitchens of his time, labeled the world's most notorious atheist.
What were some of the factors that prompted you to, in recent years, reconsider atheism and to come to the conclusion that that there is a intelligence?
It's been entirely these, I suppose, biological discoveries and discoveries about the chemistry.
So
these things.
The complexity and...
Yeah, the integrated complexity argument.
Now, when you talk about the integrated complexity, is it the unlikelihood of that developing naturalistically, the first complex integrated biological system? Is that where the problem you saw?
Well, yes, because after all, there is a problem about of physical nature. There's it's if the integrated complexity of the physical world is a good reason, as Einstein clearly thought it was, of believing that there was an intelligence behind it, then this argument applies a fortiori with the inordinately greater integrated complexity of the living world. It seems to me this is just obvious that that argument is much stronger now.
And this was one of the factors that led you to conclude there must be an intelligence.
Yeah. It was accepting Einstein, who after all was the person who was qualified to judge, and seeing that a fortiori this applied where, of course, Einstein didn't have any authority at all and wasn't inclined reasonably enough to talk about it.
He was convinced by the evidence, which atheists say does not exist. But let's believe random people on the internet instead of that guy. The history of lack of belief atheism gets even funnier because of the amount of cope there was. The rock and baby problem appeared around the 1990s. The logical counter-argument soon followed. If atheism is just a lack of belief, then rocks would technically count as atheists too, as would trees and infants. Which seems absurd because they lack consciousness or propositional attitudes. Reformulation of definitions happened around the mid-2000s. To avoid the rock problem, atheists began clarifying that atheism as lack of belief applies only to beings capable of holding beliefs, i.e. humans or other conscious agents, who have considered the claim and do not believe it. This refinement became common in online atheist apologetics around 2005 to 2015, with figures like Matt Dillahunty, Aaron Ra, and the atheist experience community explicitly saying that atheism means a lack of belief in gods within a mind capable of forming beliefs. Why is this important? It's important because this proves atheism by default is propositional because now it's in a belief-laden mind, which is inescapable. So unless you want to be regressive and go back to being a rock, you're stuck biting the philosophical bullet that atheism is a belief, and your lack thereof is, as I pointed out, is a performative contradiction. You can do that, but if that's the case, you are unworthy and incapable of reason. Thus, you deserve to be ignored. Why are lack of belief atheists such dishonest cowards, you might ask? Well, because they have no arguments. They have been destroyed by the ideas from people like fellow atheist David Hume. Strong atheism typically has little to no defense against these arguments. And since they come from a fellow atheist, it must be valid. I joke because too many atheists consider claims from theists automatically false because they come from theists. No, I'm not joking. The atheist playbook now is to make dumb claims like, calling atheism a belief system is like calling not collecting stamps a hobby. The analogy fails as a category error. It's meant to say that atheism is not an active system or commitment, it's just the absence of one. So, stamp collecting equals religion/belief. Not collecting stamps equals atheism. Superficially neat but wrong category. Collecting stamps is a behavioral activity. Atheism is a mental or doxastic stance, an attitude toward the proposition God exists. Therefore, to equate them is to mix a category of action, doing something in the world, with a category of cognition, holding or rejecting a belief. That's the category mistake. Even if atheism is defined negatively, lack of belief, it still presupposes a mind capable of holding or withholding belief, awareness of the proposition, God exists, a stance toward that proposition, I do not believe it, or I believe it false. That means atheism is participatory in the epistemic space. It involves a conscious subject evaluating a claim. By contrast, not collecting stamps requires no propositional content, no awareness, no evaluation. You could not collect stamps simply by being unconscious. Hence, the analogy breaks down because atheism presupposes cognition whereas non-collection does not. The categories don't map. And yet another lack of belief failure. What atheists typically do is constantly deny their burden of proof and wear it like a shield. They yell it like a magic chant, "It's your burden of proof." Then when you ask them to prove where you claimed God exists, silence. Then they keep asking you to prove God exists after you demand proof of their atheism. Their programming malfunctions. And they just resort to name calls saying everyone believes in a sky daddy and you have to prove it. They abuse the burden of proof like it owes them money. The irony is, no Christian religion believes God actually lives in the sky. It's a straw man. But that won't stop them from doing it, no matter how many times even other atheists correct them. The reason why this is their play is because they dishonestly frame all sufficient evidence as empirical. It's dishonest because they believe all sorts of things that cannot be proven empirically. Imagine if Christians said, the only acceptable evidence of your atheism is the supernatural. The hypocrisy is hilarious. Not only can the extraordinary claim of empiricism not be proven, the theory that all knowledge is derived from sense experience. You cannot prove that claim with sense data. You also cannot prove the extraordinary claim of evolution with empiricism. Not directly. And directly is the kind the atheist typically hypocritically demands. So atheists have never been about honesty. And why should it matter to them? They are the arbiters of their own morality. If they decide lying is good one day and not the next, so what? You can't argue they're wrong. Lying and dishonesty to them is not really wrong.
I'm back to finalize my argument, to show how atheists, specifically lack of belief, atheists are wrong about their non-belief.
Atheism is not a belief! Ah! It's not that I believe there's no God. There's no evidence. That's why I believe my atheism is accurate. Atheism is not a belief. Atheism isn't a belief. It's just a lack of belief in God.
That you're making a claim about God, that you don't believe in him. So that's a belief about God itself, and that's a contradiction. Making any claim expresses a belief. Saying I lack belief in God is a statement about your mind.
I have observed on several occasions that certain atheists claim the creator of this forum would not have me, Socrates, among their ranks. Yet I find this curious, for these very same people also insist that this creator believes in a supernatural God.
You think I'm on your side? I always believed in a divine, supernatural voice.
These lack-theists, as some call them, behave and say things as if they are some kind of fence straddler. This is another dishonest dodge, and so what they tend to do when refuted is act like it was their idea the whole time.
Of course all propositions imply a belief in something, idiot.
Let us examine this matter carefully, as reason demands. Premise 1. Whoever claims to lack belief in a proposition must first understand that proposition, for no man can meaningfully speak of what he does not comprehend. Premise 2. To understand a proposition is to entertain its truth or falsity, to hold it before the mind and weigh it in the balance of reason. Premise 3. To weigh a claim as true or false is itself an act of belief or disbelief, for the mind must incline one way or the other. Even to withhold judgment is to adopt a stance within belief. Conclusion. Therefore, he who claims to lack belief in a proposition while engaging in its consideration participates in belief while denying participation.
Oh, what's that? That's not true. Even saying you lack any belief is still a belief about belief.
And so it follows that what is called lack of belief atheism performs a contradiction against itself. For it denies the very act of cognition it must perform to declare its own absence.
The proposition, it's true that I lack belief in God, makes your lack of belief a belief. You're welcome.